Hello and welcome back. Today we'll be unboxing what I teased in the last video that you can watch here, and we'll be opening up some more packages that have finally arrived, and we'll be creating a new computer environment that I'm aptly titling the Unity. And we'll find out what that means in a little bit. So without any further waiting, let's go ahead and jump right on in. Okay, let's find out what's on all these boxes and other packages of sorts. We have RAM, more RAM, a whole box of RAM. We have even more RAM. And in here we have, oh man, this thing is really packaged pretty well. These CPUs are 8 cores or 16 threads each, and they are Intel Xeons 2670s. And of course, no server would be complete if it didn't have 2 8-core CPUs, giving us a total of 32 threads, just like the other server. And this is probably some cheapo thermal paste. We're not going to use that stuff. Alright, and finally for the big reveal. If you haven't guessed it by now, you probably already know what this is going to be. Yeah, I got to give it to those sellers. They sure do know how to package their stuff. Alright, and oh, it's another beautiful server. So this is actually the same exact server that I have already, and we're gonna be getting this thing hooked up into what I'm calling the new home lab, or as you heard earlier, the Unity. All right, let's get this thing put into the server room. It's gonna be heavy. Much crap. Oh man, thing is stuck. All right. Okay, so just a quick overview of the back. We have the redundant power supplies. Both of these are 1,100 watts. We have VGA out, serial, 2 USB ports, 1 network port, another network port. Both of these are gigabit, of course. And then also the iDRAC port for remote access. And last but not least, we also have 2 SFP ports, so we can do fiber 10 gigabit Ethernet for each port. Alright, so I'm just going to put the server right on top of here and then run power to it and also Ethernet, and we should be good to go. Oh god. This thing is heavy. Okay, just slide it right on top. Man, this looks so cool. Alright. Yeah, I'm really loving this. So like every job, it's important to have all your tools, your parts, if you can fit them on your, I guess, workstation or work area. Thermal paste, which is always important for computers. To clean off existing or old thermal paste, I always use cotton balls. And of course, you know, some alcohol that you can pick up at your local CVS or Rite Aid or whatever, Walgreens, whatever you have, depending on where you live in the States. Okay, we're going to crack this bad boy open. Servers usually open in one of 2 ways. There's usually push-down slots or maybe a latch in the very rear. And you just give it a lot of pressure, and normally they slide right open. And now we have access to the internals. Okay, so this thing is actually pretty clean. So what I just removed is a piece of plastic that goes over the CPU heat sinks, and the fan blows through these fins here, getting good nice airflow, or nice cool airflow to all the components, like the RAM and the CPUs, of course. Okay, so just like before in the last video, we have all the RAM slots, CPU slots, we have 2 2.5-inch drive bays in the rear that are both SATA 3. We have the SAS connectors, we have a RAID card, we have onboard SAS, which is actually really good, and then we also have the gigabit switch way in the rear here that you can't see. That's okay. And then of course the 4 fans all up front, and these things are going to blow massive amounts of air, and we'll actually get the decibels for that a little bit later so we can just see how loud it is. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to remove all 4 of these. Oh wow, that's not supposed to happen. Alright, so that will need to be put back on, but I'm just going to remove all 4 of these screws. As you can see, these already have thermal paste on it, so we're just going to clean that up with my alcohol and cotton balls. Alright, so I've already wet my cotton ball, and as every installation goes, just going to swirl this around until this thing gets clean. Alright, nice and clean. Not really sure how well you can see it, but there's actually some residue right there left over from thermal paste that fell off of the CPU heatsink and into the socket. So I'm gonna have to very carefully remove this so that way I don't damage the socket and I can use it in the future. Both CPU heatsinks have been removed and I'm just gonna drop in these E5 2670 CPUs into each one of these sockets. Both of these are 8 cores each or 16 threads. All right, that is in. Drop the hatch, station it down. Boom. Done. And now we're just gonna go ahead and do the next one, which should be just as easy. And I did manage to get out that thermal paste. There's a little bit left, but there's really nothing I can do about it without really getting it into the socket. So it'll just have to stay in there. All right, second CPU, good to go. Okay, so I already cleaned off the CPUs, but I'm just gonna give them one last quick rub down before I apply thermal paste. So the thermal paste will have a 100% clean surface. That way, it'll have good contact with both the CPU heat spreader and the heatsink itself. And just like every installation of CPU heatsink, start from the corners. Don't get your tool stuck in the actual thing. Screw them down tightly, but not to the point where they're too tight. So for the record, this is 8GB DDR3 Samsung RAM. Now we just need to install the RAM, and we're done. All right, so now I just gotta run an extra VGA cable to the monitor so that way I can actually see what I'm doing, and then also I'm going to go ahead and run a Ethernet cable from the switch to the iDRAC port or the remote access port of the server so I can edit that or make changes remotely. So I'm just going to temporarily run these cables for now, so excuse my cable management. Got VGA and USB run. Let's get the monitor down here so I can see what I'm doing. I don't know why I put myself through this, but I gotta admit it's actually a lot of fun playing with these electronics. Whether or not it works out, that's a whole nother story. I'm gonna be pretty upset if it doesn't work out. If you thought your fans were loud at home, I'm pretty sure you're gonna have to reconsider that thought after hearing these things. So these things are at about 109 decibels right now, all the way spun up, and as you can see, they're actually pushing the cover that is supposed to keep airflow going over the RAM, as well as the CPU heatsink. Absolutely insane. Even with the top closed, it's still pretty loud. This isn't something you won't run next to your bedroom, or maybe not even your house at all, but eventually I will get fan resistors just like the one on bottom, so that way it's not as loud. So now we're just waiting to see if this thing will actually boot into Unraid, and it looks like we're good to go. So right now, Unraid is loading up into the 64 gigabytes of RAM, and I should be able to access it remotely once I get Ethernet. As much as I hate to have to do this, I'm gonna have to make a part 2 because I'm still waiting on some more hard drives, and I'm also in critical need of some resistors because that server is just way too loud to have running 24/7. So when the new equipment comes in, I'll get you an update and we can check the progress of the new Unraid server that is now part of my new home lab. And so, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.